Okay, today we're going to talk about knowing your value, not knowing your self-worth. I covered that in last week's episode. Today is about your value, and specifically your value in the workplace. Why is this important? Because showcasing your value is step number 5 of the 5-step career progression process that I teach you inside Be the First. It's step number 5 of the only 5 steps you need to take to progress your career as a Black lawyer. So you need to showcase your value as one of those steps as part of that process, right? But you can't showcase your value if you don't know what your value is. And so that's the question we're going to be asking and answering in today's session. So here's what you're going to get from this episode. You're going to have time to actually do some intentional thinking about what your value is. You're going to go away then with a better understanding of your value in the workplace specifically. And that is the key. It's not just the value that you think you bring, the value that you have in your mind based on how many hours you've worked or how much sacrifice you've made, but your actual value also as perceived by the powers that be, by those who make the decision about whether to promote you or not. The second thing you're going to take away, and here's the really juicy bit, it's why I'm so excited for this episode, it's so much value you're going to get, which you will not find anywhere else. I am going to I'm going to share with you today, introduce you to the tool, this amazing tool that I created to help my clients to calculate their value. It's literally going to be a tool that you can take away and use and go and work out what your value is so that you can start showcasing it more intentionally. And then also so that you know the value you are showcasing is going to matter. It is going to have a positive effect on your prospects for promotion. Okay? So here's the problem that I see. Too many of you are not giving any thought at all to working out what your value is, okay? So you're just there working really hard, you're doing your day job, and you are assuming that it's enough. And that's all very well and good, and you'll receive lots of good and positive feedback if you're doing all the hours. But then what happens is you go for that promotion and you discover that what you've been doing all this time isn't enough. You're not in the best position to be promoted. There are lots of things that are missing. There are lots of value that you're not bringing to the table, so there's no reason for them to want to promote you. So are you in that camp? Are you someone who hasn't given any attention to actually thinking about, from a career progression perspective, what your value is, what you bring to the table? That's like, let's say, problem number 1. Problem number 2 is I see a lot of you that are questioning your value, still questioning your value after years and years of experience. And I see this even at a very senior level. One of my clients, she is in one of the most senior rooms in her organization. And for a long time, she kept coming back and saying, yeah, but what's my value here? What is my value in this room? And there are 2 things I want to add here. First of all, that is a question that you want to be asking yourself. I encourage you to regularly ask yourself, what is the value that I bring to this room? Like, how valuable am I? So that's the first thing. That is a positive. But the second part of it is you've got to be able to answer that. Now, I recognize also that if you are someone who is moving up through the ranks, as this particular client was, there's that question, well, it remains the same, but the answer to that question will change as you get further and further, like more and more senior. And even, let me think, in private practice, let's say you go from being a senior associate to being of counsel, then the value you bring at of counsel level is different. It's expected to be different than the value you bring at senior associate level. So it will change. That means you want to keep asking yourself the question. But problem number 2 I see is you actually not taking the time or not knowing how to answer that question. So you're like spinning around and kind of, what's my value here? And I don't know what to contribute to the meeting or to the conversation. And you stay stuck there, right? Stay stuck in not knowing or questioning the value that you bring. Problem number 3, maybe this is you. Limiting your value and therefore limiting your potential. Something I used to hear so much when I was working in private practice, and I'd say occasionally myself, and I had a lot of clients saying, is I'm only as good as my last deal. Have you ever said that? Have you ever thought that? I want you to think about the implications of you going around saying or thinking that. I'm only as good as my last deal. Are you kidding me? Like, there is so much value that you bring, not just from your last deal, but of course from everything that you have done up until that point, all of your experience, who you are. There is so much that goes into what your value is, and I'm going to talk to that in a moment when we get to the tool I'm going to share with you in this episode. But there's so much that contributes to your value. So if you are someone going around saying something like, I'm only as good as my last deal, then you are limiting your value. And in doing so, you are limiting your potential. Because what do you think people are going to think and say when they hear you say, I'm only as good as my last deal? All they're going to do is want to know about your last deal and assume that that is pretty much all there is to know about you and the value you bring, right? So the message you send when you say that is a very limiting one. So maybe that's you in camp number 3. Problem number 4 that I see is you miscalculating your value. What I mean by that is you look at, so for example, all of the years that you've been working away, you've been billing all of the hours, exceeding all of your targets, and you make the miscalculation that that translates into the value that you need to bring to be promoted to partner, for example. Like this, I've heard quite a lot, like they owe it to me. Surely all of the years I've worked, surely I've proved myself, right? So you're making a miscalculation of what your value is. In order to be promoted, they won't necessarily be looking at all of the years that you've been hitting your billable targets. It may be a factor, but they won't promote you on the basis of that value. There are other aspects to your value that they will be looking for. So it's really important that you don't make that miscalculation, that you're able to calculate your value more accurately. Okay, so maybe you're in camp number 4, miscalculating your value. And then the 5th problem that I see is underestimating your value. And this I see especially in you, my black lawyers, who are in that mindset of being the only one, as if you are someone whose career happens to them, as if being the black lawyer in a white group or a white office, or just being in the minority, as if that meant that you were less valuable. And that is a complete underestimation of your value, because you, as being the first, which is what I teach you, it's the mindset I teach you inside it, be the first. Like, you're not the only one, you're the first. And when you can recognize that you're the first, you bring along with that, in being the first, so much value. There's so much value that you have to give that all of your white peers that are all very similar or had the same trajectory to get there, have had all the same experiences, right, that they can't bring. So there's so much value that you bring to the table that you're just leaving by the wayside. You're completely underestimating what you have to offer. So there you have it. 5 problems, value problems, 5 different ways in which I see you're underselling yourself, undervaluing yourself. But we're going to change that in this episode. So I just want to say and the reason why there are 5 of those examples or scenarios is because it is quite a common problem I see. It's quite challenging to sit down and confront yourself with the question, what is my value? So I just want to acknowledge you if that is where you are and that's something you've struggled with, if that's a question you've asked yourself for years and not being able to answer. I totally get it. I definitely struggled with that in my early years of private practice too. And what I want to offer is I also struggled with it in my early years as a coach as well, asking myself that question, what is my value? And it really is the product of me having worked really hard and long at understanding exactly where you're at, the challenges you face as a black lawyer in a essentially white world, a white corporate environment, and all of everything that brings up, as well as just the challenges of being a lawyer. It's the work I've done in getting to really understand not just the problem, but get a solution for you, right? A solution that you can use, that's practical, and that's going to help make that answering that question, what is your value, a lot easier. So all of that is to say, really, is like I've done the work of really investigating what value means, what it looks like from different perspectives, what value counts, what value doesn't count within the legal industry, within your environment, whether it's private practice or in-house. It's a product of this work and the coaching I do inside Be the First, right, that has led me to be able to help you with this, to understand and really get to grips with what's going on here, and most importantly, give you the blueprint, the way forward, the action to take to solve for it. So here we go. What I'm aiming for and what I want for you is that you become a person who can talk about your value confidently. So you can ask yourself that question that I said, it's useful, it's important that you ask at regular intervals, what is my value here? What value do I bring? So be able to ask yourself that question regularly and always know how to answer it. And likewise, I want you to be able to answer that question, talk about the answer to that question to other people. So knowing it yourself, right? So because that's going to give you so much confidence in going about your work when you know your value, but also in being able to communicate it. That's what we want. It's so important. And by communication, I mean talk about your value, but also showcase your value, which, as you remember from the beginning, is exactly what you need in order to progress, in order to position yourself as that irresistible prospect for promotion. That's what I'm calling it in my recent work, an IPP, an irresistible prospect for promotion, or promotion prospect. I'm not sure which way around it should be. All right, so this is what we're going for. And here is the solution I want to offer you. Here's how you get there. Number one is a kind of simple, obvious one, but I want to state it really explicitly, is you take the time to think about it and to review it. This is a requirement. So that's the first thing. This is one of the first step to being the person who knows their value and is able to talk about it and showcase it. The second step is, with that time that you take to think about it, to ask yourself the question and then find the answer, you use that time to work it out, literally to calculate your value. And that now is what I'm going to show you how to do. So I'm excited to share with you one of my favorite tools inside Be the First that I am teaching, sharing with my clients. And that is helping them to really, well, not just build their confidence in terms of the value they bring, but to talk about their value in a way that they never could before because they felt awkward, they didn't know what to say, but also to showcase their value in a way that supports their bid for promotion. The tool, it's called, are you ready? Wait for it. It's called the value equation. It's a super simple name, but it is so good. I can't wait to share it with you. So it's called the value equation. What is the value equation? The value equation is a simple equation that I created, as I said, for my clients inside Be the First. And what it does is it helps you to calculate your value so you can talk about it in normal conversation, and so you can showcase it to attract the recognition, the respect, and the rewards you deserve. In other words, so you can get promoted, right? Why this is so brilliant and so useful and is going to be such a treasure for you, a powerful tool, is because it's a plug and play formula for determining your true value, right, to the business or firm, right? Notice the emphasis on true value. So this is the value that will get you noticed. It's the value that will bring in opportunities. It's the value that will get you supported, and it is the value that will get you promoted. So with that big introduction, let's talk about what it is. So the value equation, quite simply, is this. You might need a pen and paper right away, or to put this in your notes. Or if not, don't worry, because this is exactly what I teach you inside Be the First, and we work through every aspect, every part of that equation. So don't worry too much if you're listening to this on the tube or you're out on a walk. A, you can always come back to it. B, when you join Be the First, we work through every step and I show you exactly how it works. So here's the value equation. It is what you bring multiplied by why they care, divided by the time things take you, and the cost. So how much it costs the firm or the clients, by extension, how much it costs for you to do that. So it's what you bring times why they care divided by time and cost. So let me break it down for you so this makes sense. That's the value equation. So all of that equation equals your true value, okay? So let's look at each of the individual components. What you bring. There are 4 parts to this. It's who you are, what you do, how you do it, and the results you create. That is what makes up what you bring. So independently of anything else, wherever you are, that's what you bring, okay? Then we multiply that by why they care. Now they, in this scenario, is your employer, your firm, your business, okay? You could also do this as your clients. If you are, let's say you are running the firm or you have your own firm, then it would be your clients. But why they care. And this is again composed of 4 parts. There's 4 parts to it. It's what they want, what they need, what they wish they had less of, and what they do anything to have more of. Okay, so we loop all of those 4 under the category of why they care. So if we take what you bring and we multiply that by all of the reasons why they would care, so the more what you bring aligns with why they care, then the more valuable you are. Like you times those things together and you get you become massively valuable. If you think about it, if what you bring matches why they care, then you are going to be invaluable. It's a bit like, let's take a everyday scenario. If you, let's think of a doctor's analogy. Let's say you're a doctor and you are an expert on migraines, right? And then you have a client who comes and they suffer from migraines and they want to have a life free of migraines. Then that makes you incredibly valuable because you bring the qualification, you bring the experience, you bring, if you bring a nice, how you do it is with a nice bedside manner, like you're engaging, you listen, you make them feel heard. That's an example of how you do what you do. And you create the result that you help people get over migraines, never have a migraine ever again. Imagine how valuable you are when you bring all of that and then your client cares about all of those things. They are so perfectly aligned. It makes you more valuable to that client than anything else on the planet, right? So can you see how those work together, those 2 elements, what you bring and why they care? So that just multiplying those 2 elements makes you incredibly valuable, right? So the more aspects you have that they care about, the more valuable you are. The fewer you have, the slightly less valuable you are. Okay, hold that thought. And then we take all of the value that you're creating at the top of that equation and we divide it by the time it takes you to deliver, to bring what you bring, right, to deliver that value, and by the cost, right, to the firm or to the organization to deliver that value. So here's an example for you. If, for example, you are incredibly meticulous, you have a phenomenal eye for detail, you are extremely thorough, you have very, very high standards of execution, right? Let's say that's some of what you bring. And then what your firm cares about, of course it does. The law firm is always going to care about attention to detail. It cares about attention to detail. Fantastic. It sounds like you're really valuable. However, if it takes you a really long time to review a document because of your attention to detail and to actually deliver on that value. So let's say it takes you 10 hours to review an agreement, and even though you are meticulous, even though your attention to detail is absolutely insane, it's incredible. If it takes you a really long time to do it, such that, for example, you miss a deadline, suddenly your value goes right down. It's very different. So I want you to, all of those of you who are out there who are perfectionists and you're making everything, everything has to be perfect, and I'm really good at the attention to detail, I'm going to spend as much time as it takes because what matters is that it's of the best and highest quality. I want you to consider that from a true value perspective, as in value to your organization, you become less valuable the longer it takes you. So when you're faced with that situation that a deadline has been given and you are at that moment where, I just want to spend a little bit longer to make it perfect, the longer you spend past that deadline, the less valuable you become. Okay? So picturing, just to create this picture, obviously this is, I'm not drawing this out on a board or anything, I'm just talking you through it. So I'm going to just kind of paint the picture for you again to help you see it in your mind's eye. If you imagine an equation, you've got like, on the top, you've got what you bring multiplied by why they care. And then there's a line of division. And then underneath that, you've got the time it takes you and how much it costs, right? So time times cost is on the bottom line. What I've described to you is how the value you create at the top line, right, can be heavily undermined or reduced by what's going on at the bottom line. So the time it takes you can reduce your value. Likewise, the amount it costs you to deliver that value can reduce your value. So to give you another example, if you are someone who ticks all of the boxes in terms of quality of work, you're brilliant at it, let's say even if you do it really quickly, so the time it takes you isn't an issue. So you bring all of these things and it matches why they care and you're incredibly valuable and you can do it quickly. But what happens is you are doing work that's below your pay grade, right? You're doing work that you should have delegated to a junior lawyer. And instead you have done it, which means you have done, let's say, junior lawyer level work, but you've done it at senior associate rates. What that means is it's costing the firm for you to produce that work, to produce that value. That, my friend, is going to reduce your value. So in order to, sort of slightly lost my train of thought then, I'm thinking about this equation. So thinking about that equation then, what you bring multiplied by why they care, let's say that's really so much value. You are absolutely going to be number one on everybody's list for promotion. But the problem is that in order to deliver that value, you do everything yourself. That is very expensive for the firm. It's very expensive for the client, and the client doesn't want to pay it. It doesn't want to pay over the odds. It doesn't want to pay a senior associate raise for what a junior lawyer could do. So hopefully, if you stayed with me after my brain got a little bit lost there, hopefully you can see the ways in which you can increase your value, or your value can be very, very high, but how that value can change based on how long things take you and how much it costs for you and the cost of you doing that work. And all of that then, with that equation, is going to equate to your true value, your real value in the context of the business, okay? I'm so excited by this tool. And by the way, inside Be the First, I write all of this out on a board and we work through those 4 different elements of the value equation, and I help you to plug and play. Remember, I'm just giving you an overview today. I'm hoping that it sounds as clear and simple as it is. It really is so simple. I'm giving you an overview and I've given you all of the different elements of each component of the equation so you can see how it works. Now, to aid you further, I'm going to whiz through a bit of an example, but I'm going to do it by way of telling you about me. So to describe my value using that equation. I just thought it would be really interesting to share with you in a different context. And also that way you will also hear me talk about the value that I bring you and how it works. So what I bring, that first part of the equation, what I bring is, who I am. So I'm Caroline Flanagan. I am the Black Lawyers Coach. What I do is I empower Black lawyers just like you to progress to the next level. So you get the recognition, the respect, and the rewards you deserve. How I do it in 3 ways. I teach you a clear and simple process, right? I give you the skills, I help you acquire those skills, and I'm constantly creating, as I'm sharing with you today, the tools to make going through that process easy, to make it simple, to make it doable, right? So I give you everything you need to progress to the next level. But I don't just give you the strategy, I also give you the crucial element that as a Black lawyer, progressing in a white world is absolutely essential that you have, and that is the be the first mindset. So I give you the mindset that enables you to navigate, empowers you rather, to navigate the challenges of being Black in a white world. And then finally, the third part of my how, right? How I do what I do, how I do give you what you want, is I guide you every step of the way and I keep you on track. We have just had, by the way, the most phenomenal session inside Be the First. It was so good. I did a whole session on blocks, like things that are keeping you blocked. In other words, when you know what you need to do, but you're just blocked, you're just not doing it. And it had been coming up over the last kind of few sessions where I could see some of my clients were like, they were just blocked, they were just stuck and not able and not taking this action that they knew they needed to take. So I did a whole session on overcoming blocks. It was so phenomenal. It was so powerful. Like, if any of my clients are listening to this, you will agree with me. It was such a great session. I also shared my blocks and how I'm getting through those, working through those. But that's a great example of how I guide you and I keep you on track every step of the way. It's not enough just to have a process. Even though that process works, right, you need to have the right mindset to get you through the obstacles you're going to face along the way. And you need someone to keep you guys on track. And I don't mean just you. I need someone to keep me on track. That's why I have a personal trainer in my training. Otherwise, I just wouldn't do what I have to do. Or I'd do some of it and I wouldn't be consistent. Yeah, so I'm your coach every step of the way. So that's how I do it. And then the result that I create is I create measurable, sustainable progress for you. What does that mean? It means you progress to the next level. That could be get made up partner within the program or shortly thereafter. It could be that you progress to the next level if that's of counsel. It could be you're put on the partnership track. It could be that you are positioned as an irresistible prospect for partnership, right? So this is the result that I create. And for me, just as importantly, I make sure you create that in a way that is sustainable. So not at the cost or expense of your personal life, and certainly not at the cost of expense of your well-being. And I make sure you have the skills that allow you not just to get to the next level, but ensure you succeed there and can stay there. Very, very important. So this is all very unique to what I do and what I offer you as your coach inside Be the First, right? Can you see and hear how I can talk about the value I bring so easily and fluently as a result of this fantastic value equation? And that is just one section, right? If we look at the second bit, which multiplies my value, it's where I can match what I bring to why you care. And here are the elements of why you care. I talked you through them before, and now I'll apply them to my scenario and to your scenario, right? And me as your coach. So what you want, remember I said there were 4 components: what you want, what you need, what you want less of, and what you'll do anything to get more of. So what you want is to progress. You want to be promoted or position yourself for promotion so that you can get the recognition, the rewards, and the respect you deserve. What you need is a clear and simple process to follow. There are so many different things that you could be doing that kind of contribute and help you in your career. You're also doing your day job. You don't need complexity. You don't need lots of steps. You don't need 1,000,001 tasks. You need a clear and simple proven process. And that's what I give you. What you need also is that way to navigate the challenges when you face them, right? As a Black lawyer, whether it's the challenge of being the only Black lawyer in your organization or in your group, right? Whether it's a challenge of not being included, the challenge of being authentic, it can feel hard to be your true self. Whether it's the challenge of encountering microaggressions or racism, yeah? So you need a way to navigate those challenges. If you're a Black lawyer and you want to succeed, you need to be able to navigate the challenges, like navigate what you're going to encounter on your way up to the top. Rooms are just going to get whiter and whiter and whiter, right? So I give you that mindset. I also give you what you need in the form of someone who believes in you. So many of you either don't believe in yourself at all, or you believe in yourself sometimes, or you believe in yourself at this level but not at the next level. This is a key one. You may not know that you need this, but I bring it anyway because my expertise, my experience tells me that this is something, and it's not rocket science. Like if you have done any personal development at all, like believing you can achieve your goal, the belief is so important. It's so key. And when you don't have it, it is invaluable. You absolutely do want and need someone else who has it and can hold belief in you while your belief catches up, while you build your confidence and belief in yourself. That is something you need. It is something that I give and bring. My belief in you all the way to the top. I actually had a client, an old client, reach out to me and share the amazing, fantastic news that she has been made partner. And I just never fail to get really emotional when I hear, obviously, about your success. And she sent it to me over by email, and I replied back, and as well as lots of like enthusiasm, exuberance, my usual, like some would say, over the top excitement, but my genuine, absolute joy for her. It was like, yeah, of course, I never stopped believing. I knew it. I knew it was coming, and that was so genuine and so true. It was true all the time I was working with her, and it has remained true even when we finished working together. And so for her to share with me that she was now a partner, I'm like, yes. Of course you are. I knew it was coming. So that is just such an important part of my work and what I bring to you. And it's an important part of what you need is the belief in what you're capable of. And what you also need, as I've mentioned when I talked about what I bring, because this aligns so beautifully, is you need someone to keep you on track. It's very easy to procrastinate. It's very easy to get distracted. It can be very challenging to do this career progression work when you have so much going on in your personal life and you're doing the day job as well of just doing what is expected of you, let alone what you need to do to progress. So those are the things that you need. Then let's talk about what you're desperate to have less of. Here's what experience tells me. You're desperate to have less overwhelm. You're desperate to have less risk of burnout. You're desperate to have less imposter syndrome, less procrastination, less playing small, like playing beneath your potential, knowing you're capable of more. Again, like what I do is I absolutely, all of those things, and that's just the tip of the iceberg of the things that I help you to have less of. And then what you do anything to have more of. And by the way, if there's anything on this list that I have missed out, that you want less of, or you want more of, or you just want, or you need, write in and tell me, because I want to add to this. I want to, and I'm always striving to be as valuable as I can and to meet why you care, meet what I bring with why you care as closely as possible, constantly increasing my value in that way to you. So what you do anything to have more of, I've got down, you would do anything to have more sponsorship, more opportunity, more recognition, more time, and more confidence. Okay. And again, I'm matching what I bring to what and why you care, like what you do anything to have more of. Okay. So that's the top line of my value equation that I've just talked you through. But I have to divide that by time and cost. Let's have a look at how I fare there. Obviously, the longer it takes me to get you those results, right, the less valuable, the more that reduces my value. And then the more I charge to get you those results, the less it seems valuable. Does that make sense? It doesn't make what I do not good value, but it does impact. If I charged £100,000 for what I did, you would think, okay, I think what Caroline does is really valuable, but I'm not sure that this is valuable enough to me to spend £100,000. I mean, you might think that. I mean, I'm not going to say that the results that I create aren't worth that, by the way, just to be clear. But in terms of wanting you, I want to make sure that you can see and appreciate and you get the value of what I do and that is available and accessible to you right now. We'll see in the future if my fees ever get up to 100,000. Maybe I didn't pick a big enough number. All right, so going back on track then, that value equation. Underneath the what I bring and why you care, what I have considered and what contributes to my value, right, is the fact that I give you like that ability to progress, that positioning yourself for promotion, that partnership track, that partnership promotion, right? I offer that in a 6-month program. Right? That isn't like hardly any time at all. If you think about, you come to me as a senior associate or as a mid-level associate or an off-council, and it's a 6-month program and I'm teaching you all of those skills, all of those tools, and in only 6 months, that is huge. Like what I teach inside this program, I could spend a whole year teaching. I could spend 2 years teaching, but I teach them those skills and the mindset really, really quickly, and then I coach you every step of the way. Does it mean in 6 months it's always all of those results happen within that 6 months? Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Depends on the other factors. But it's a 6-month program. So when you look at what I bring, when you look at and think about why you care, and you see that I'm meeting your needs in 6 months, like for you, that's like, okay, 6 months, that's great, because I want to be paid partner next year. Yeah, can you see how that seems valuable to you? Now, likewise, when you look at the cost, now I charge at the time this is going on air, it's £3,600 to join Be the First, right? As mid to senior level black lawyer. Now, for obviously number is all relative. Like some of you will think that's so cheap. Some of you will think that's too expensive. So I'm not talking about the relative number itself. What I'm talking about is what you get for that. It is such an undercharge. Like to pay £3,600 for 6 months of coaching. We meet every single week. You get me for an hour. You get the benefit of the community who you are progressing along with, supporting each other, sharing your experiences, learning from each other. Like that is an absolute undercharge. And I have that fee for that very reason. I don't want the cost of the program to be an issue for you. I want you thinking about, what does Caroline bring? Why do I care? What do I want? What do I need? What do I want to have less of? What do I want to have more of? Can Caroline give that to me? Oh my gosh. And what's that worth to me in terms of the impact that's going to have on my life? How it's going to be different? What it's going to be like to have more recognition, more respect, more rewards, including financial reward in the scheme of things, what I'm getting for what I'm paying. Oh my gosh, that's a no-brainer. Yeah. So can you see how the time of 6 months and then the cost of £3,600 means I've managed to keep my value extremely high. Yeah, what you get for that money and for that amount of time spent coaching with me. So there you have, I have talked you through in lots of detail. I've shared with all of my, the excitement I feel for this equation. Listen, this equation is going to be a game changer for you. I have never shared this outside Be the First, and I'm sharing it with you today. I also want to add that if you are going to the Black Council Forum 2025, I will be teaching you the value equation. Just what I've just been running through just now about how you can actually calculate your value. I'm doing a whole workshop that's going to give you time to think about your value. Ask yourself the question, what is my value here? What value do I bring? We're creating I'm leading a whole workshop that's going to give you time to think about that question, to reflect on your answers to that question. And best of all, I'm giving you that formula, the value equation. I'm going to walk you through every step. You're going to do the exercises of what you bring, why they care, divided by the time and the cost to establish your real value in the context of the business, in the context of the workplace. You're going to do all of this work. We're going to do it together inside the Black Council Forum 2025. So if you're going and you're a mid to senior level associate, then be very excited. I have not taught this outside of the Be the First room ever before. This equation is going to change everything for you. It is going to make you very, very clear about what your value is in every room, in every conversation, on every deal. And it's going to make you very clear, make it very easy rather, for you to increase that value, for you to talk about that value in normal conversation in 100 different ways, and for you to showcase that value in a way that is going to help you to be promoted. So be very, very excited. And if you're not going to BCF 2025, but also if you are going to be at BCF 2025, there is an opportunity for you to continue this work, to take it deeper by joining Be the First. Now, I'm not currently open for enrollment. We've closed the September enrollment. We're just getting started now, again with the latest cohort, right? But the next enrollment is coming soon in the next few weeks. So watch this space. I'm going to be opening enrollment again. So if this is of interest to you, and by the way, why wouldn't it be? You're a black lawyer, you want to progress in a white world, showcasing your value is absolutely critical, something you need to do. You will have the opportunity to learn this work, to develop this skill inside Be the First, alongside the other 4 core steps of the career progression process that I teach you. Okay, so before I end, how to use the value equation. Number 1, use it to understand and measure, right, your value, and understand how it is measured, how it is seen by others. In other words, by the business, by the powers that be, by those who decide whether to promote you or not. Number 2, use it to feel confident in your value, to build your confidence, give you the confidence to speak up in meetings, give you the confidence to write that article that you have promised you will write or have always planned to write. Use the value equation to really connect with your value and bring it to a piece of work. Use it to talk about your value in 100 different ways in normal conversation. Yeah, because when you've answered the questions that make up those 4 essential elements of the equation, when you've done all of that work, you're going to be able to just pick different parts of the equation so easy and be able to fluidly go from one to the other, depending on the conversation, depending on the situation. Just pull out the relevant bits and just be able to talk about them naturally and easily. That's so valuable. The number of you that say to me, yeah, but how do I just talk about what I do without sounding cocky or arrogant? How do I just fit it into the conversation? This, my friend, is how you do it. You do the value equation, so you have all of the information clear and you're able to articulate it just easy. It rolls off your tongue because you've done the work of understanding your value beforehand. And then also use it to showcase your value for positioning you for promotion. I'm going to be talking more about that in the episode next week, the actual showcasing and the talking about it. So make sure you tune in. And then number 5, use it to increase your value. Remember I said what you bring multiplied by why they care. You can increase any one of those. And remember, it's divided by the time and the cost it takes you. So you can also decrease the amount of time it takes you and decrease the cost to your firm or organisation, right, of you delivering that value. And if you hear any disturbance in the background, it's because my dog has just burst into the room again. Keeps doing that when I'm recording the podcast. I love him dearly, but it's very annoying. All right, coming back on topic. Knowing your value. You absolutely want to spend time and be intentional about understanding what your value is in the context of the business. I've given you a very powerful tool that I created inside Be the First for my clients so that they have a plug and play system for calculating their value, for increasing their value, for using their value to feel more confident, right? For talking about their value in everyday conversation. And I've given that tool to you today. I've shared you and introduced it to you so that you can do the same. Remember, the next enrollment for Be the First is coming up soon. So make sure you are follow me on social media. LinkedIn and Instagram are my main platforms. So connect with me on IG, connect with me on LinkedIn. Make sure you follow me. Make sure you tick the bell so that they know to send you my content. Keep an eye out, keep an ear out for the next enrollment of Be the First. And it's been great seeing you. As always, I'll be back next week. I'll be talking about how you do the showcasing. Bye for now.